are the people who are in charge of controlling and regulating noise pollution.
I understand what you're saying, Alan, but if my landlord won't take any notice of me, he hasn't answered my voicemails.
Have you spoken to him? So you've sent him voicemails and got no answer?
Correct, and I'm not on a computer. So
that's okay. So the landlord has taken no action despite what you've said.
No,
so as far as you're concerned,
he doesn't care.
So as far as you're concerned, he doesn't care. Then you now have a noise. So you now have a noise abatement problem, and for that, you need to talk to your local authority, the Environmental Health Department.
Yeah. Okay. But can I just state, I had a toilet that wouldn't work, right? I waited a fortnight for my landlord, who is English, I'm English, right? And my neighbours, within a day, had the same problem, and they'd only just moved in virtually, right? They got the problem sorted out within a day. You'll have to excuse me, I've had a bit to drink. I'm usually more articulate, But this isn't good enough. I've had enough. I'm 75 next month, and I'm not prepared to put up with all this.
Well, I don't blame you for not being prepared to put up with it. I don't think I would like to have to put up with it either. But what you need to do is get some help in getting it resolved. And the people who are in charge of noise are the Environmental Health Department. And they're the people you need to talk to, because they can go to your neighbour and say, you're making too much noise and we'd like you to stop. And that's the first step. And if they say we don't understand you, the local authority can actually employ the services of translators to make sure that they do understand them. So that's your next step.
It's not going to do any good, Alan.
Helena, if it's not going to do any good, I suggest you do nothing, because there are a series of steps.
I'm going to put up with it, am I?
And that is a choice you can make. I'm making suggestions to you about what the process is that you need to go through, and you're saying it won't work, and that's fine. You're entitled to that view, but doing nothing won't work. That I can promise you.
No, fair enough, Alan. But let me just say, I'm on my own. I don't expect anybody on earth to feel sorry for me. But I've lived in Stockport all my life, and these foreigners come across, and, I've never been racist in my life, but my landlord is seen to them before he's seen to me.
But, Helena, I can't deal with that element of your complaint. I've told you what to do as a starting point with the noise complaint, but you simply want to tell me that they're foreigners, and I accept that. Do have a good evening. Hopefully a quiet one. How do Lawrence?
Hello there. Can you hear me?
Yes, thanks. What would you like to talk about, Lawrence?
Well, there's two subjects. One's a question and one's a suggestion. The first one being the question, which I don't know whether you can check it out and find out and the info on it, is, like you get a lot of people that are asking for money outside shops and what have you, what we used to call begging. I don't know what the word is for it now. And most of them are heroin addicts. Yeah. And I asked a couple of them, how are you lot doing? Are you getting this COVID? Do you know maybe it's got this virus? And every one of them's saying no. So I'm saying, what I'm asking you is that right? That it's a blanket where they can't get done because the heroin what they're taking is killing the germ. You get me? No.
Heroin addicts can get Covis.
I've just not heard of anybody getting it. I've seen it. I thought,
well,
on the front line all the time.
The answer to your question is no. Heroin addicts can get Covis. I would ask you a question, and that is a simple one. These beggars, how do you know they're all heroin addicts?
I've asked them. They live down the street from me.
And you've asked them, and they say, "Yeah, I'm a heroin addict."
Oh yeah. They go from the admit.
Well, that's fine. I asked you how you know, and now we know how you know. Well, I can give you assurance that I don't think there's been any specific scientific research, but it is almost certainly the case that heroin does not protect you from COVID. You said there was a second thing, a suggestion.
The suggestion is this. This virus, it's a world war, isn't it, really, with this? And my thing is, like, why don't we, as a nation, because we'll never use it anyway, instead of spending this £40 billion, what they're saying on getting a new nuclear weapon, why don't we spend that £40 on the health service, make it the best in the world, instead of saying it's the best, make it the best, with the money, what they go spend on weapons, what are no good anyway, we'll never use them anyway. I just don't get it. I don't get the thing on why waste so much money. We've wasted enough in the past with the tridents and all the rest of it. And let's have it right, a nuclear weapon is only one of them. If we get hit with a weapon, what we're supposed to do? Die happy because we know it's hitting somebody else just like us on the other side. I just don't.
Well, I suppose when you say we'll never use it anyway, I hope you're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
But it's a bit like house insurance. There are lots of people who say, look, I've never had a fire in my life. I've never had a flood in my life. Why am I paying all this damn money everywhere for house insurance? So they stop paying it. And what happens next?
I just look at it, I honestly think the nuclear side of it is just so sweetening up to America to buy their weapons. It's just our payoff to them to buy weapons off them. You know what I mean? I just don't get the logic of it.
One thing we know is that if we have a nuclear weapon, we massively reduce the chances of somebody attacking us with their nuclear weapon because they know what the consequence will be. So, for example, if China decided to lob one out... Sorry?
I know what you mean,
yeah. So you know, if you're stood there and there's a bloke you don't like and you think, I'm going to give him a smack, and you walk towards him and say, hey, you, and he pulls out a revolver, what do you do next? Do you smack him in the mouth, or do you say, are you having a nice day? Which do you do?
Well, I'm a pacifist, so I won't end up in that way. You know what I mean? But
well, now I understand your argument about nuclear weapons. Your argument isn't that we'll never use them. Your argument is that we shouldn't have them because you're a pacifist.
It's a waste.
Okay, I get that.
It's a waste of money. That's my beliefs.
It's not. You're not making Lawrence. Lawrence, the argument you're making isn't that they're a waste of money. Your argument is that we shouldn't have them. You have a principled argument. The waste of money argument is the argument you can use about house insurance. Listen, millions and millions of people have got it. Thousands claim every year, which means millions don't. So it's a waste of money. You're not making that argument. You're saying they are disgraceful and we should be a better nation than that. And that's a good argument.
We should.
No, I agree. I agree. It's a good argument. Well, you see, we can.
At the moment, the money could be better spent on the war we're involved in at the moment, which is this virus.
Well, the thing about the virus, there doesn't appear to be any shortage of money in dealing with the virus. every other day the government spends another 10, 15, 20 billion pounds on something else. They're spending money like there's no tomorrow. They're not sitting there thinking we're running out of money. They're sitting there thinking, I wonder how many votes we can get for this billion.
Yeah, and I'm not under the illusion that we're not going to suffer for the money what they're spending out on.
I suspect.
Not you know we're going to pay in the end. You know what I mean?
Lawrence, everybody knows. Everybody knows. And if your argument against nuclear weapons is a principled one, then stick with that. If you're arguing that we'll never use them, well, we use them every day. Every single day. We use them every day.
We use them, the threat of them, do you mean? Because we don't.
No, we use them every day. We use them every day. And the way we use them is preventing somebody from attacking us with a nuclear weapon. That's a use. Now, you might disapprove of that.
I've never been under the threat of that. But, you know, like...
We have, Lawrence, take it from me, Lawrence, we have been under the threat of that.
Well, there's only one country which seems to have used one, isn't there? Well, they used two.
There is only one country. There's only one country that has launched nuclear weapons in anger, and that is the United States.
Yeah,
but
we know that. We know that's what I'm saying. And since then, the threat of what could happen stops it anyway. And we're just a very small country compared to them. And
Lawrence, you're going off on one again. Lawrence, your argument is simple. Let me help you again. Your argument is that you object to the existence of nuclear weapons and you believe this nation should not have them on principle. That's your argument. Yeah. It's a very honourable argument. To say that we don't use them, well, sorry, we use them every day because they are a deterrent. So that's a use.
Well, my thing is now, especially because we're already in a war with this virus. It's a war.
Well, it's not a war, is it? I mean, let's not. I mean, I've let you say that 4 or 5 times, even though it's absolute cobblers. We have a difficulty at the moment, and quite frankly, to the surprise of many, the government is spending money like there's no tomorrow. So there isn't an argument that's saying if we didn't have nuclear weapons, they'd be able to spend it on this virus. There's no more money we can spend on the virus. There's nothing else we can buy.
Well, no.
Have a good night. Right, so the argument's fallacious. Stick with the principal one. It's a better argument, Lawrence. I'll do Juliet.
Oh, hello, Alan.
Hello.
And I've had one of those ideas which might have been of some use about 6 months ago, but is now hardly worth mentioning, but I did want to mention it. It really concerns the cash award to the families of nurses and other medical staff who lost their lives, to the virus.
Yeah.
And then there's been some talk about, well, they need to have a memorial of some kind, and where would it be, etc. And I wondered, instead of the money award, if there could be something like a space in the hospitals where the people who died because of the virus worked, and and then as a memorial, perhaps on a wall or in some part of the hospital, the same hospital, where they worked and died, and to have a picture of each worker that would probably survive for 10, maybe 20 years, and those people would be remembered when visitors to the hospital, their families could go there and have a look. But otherwise, the money, once the money is gone, it's gone. And there's nothing really that, in a way, remembers them. I know the families, well, of course, but if there could be something, you know, in Manchester, at the Manchester Infirmary or something.
Well, wherever, yeah.
Yeah, and there could be a wall with everyone's picture on, portrait or whatever, you know, and people could just come and perhaps have a quiet 10 minutes there, or just see them and remember them, and then other people could see the people who, you know, were killed because of perhaps nursing them or nursing their families.
Mm.
And
imagine the situation, if you will. It's quite a brutal thought I'm inviting you to have, but imagine a one-parent family nurse who struggles to make ends meet because the money's not brilliant, and he or she has got a couple of kids at home but no partner, and he or she dies, and they turn to the kids and say, "Don't worry, there's a plaque." And the kids say, "Yeah, but where am I going to get clothes and dinner from? Who's going to pay for my care? Who's going to look after me? Where's the money going to come for my school uniform, for my meals, for my home?" Oh, you don't worry about that. You've got a plaque.
yeah.
I think they'd rather have 60 grand, don't you?
Well, yes, but I think however the money is spent, and it's short term, whereas.
Well, it's short. It's short term.
With you, Alan, because
well,
I know
you see,
you too well to argue.
But my point, Juliet, is the 60 grand. Fine. Mm-hmm. If you want a plaque, have a plaque, but don't do away with the compensation for loss of life in return for a plaque on the wall. Surely.
No, it's probably just me. I just thought money doesn't mean very much. I know it means a lot.
Does if you're hungry. Yes. The people I hear say money means nothing have usually got some.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I rarely care about money now. I think money, who cares about money? But I can remember when I was a kid, my mum and dad cared about every penny. Every single penny, because they didn't have any. So, but certainly, there will be people who think exactly like you, who want some visible recognition in the hospital for those that died in this incident, without a shadow of a doubt. And I can imagine that happening. And I can imagine in 10 years' time, people walk past it and not even know what it is, just like they do with the cenotaphs. People.
Yes, I suppose. Yes, I'm sure you're right, and it is academic anyway, because it's all cut and dried with the money. But I just thought it would be if people could be in the hospital they worked in, and people could, you know, walk past and just say, "Oh yes, there's Sister so and so or Nurse so and so. I remember her," you know. But there we are.
Well, no, Juliet. I think that side of it will happen. I think that will happen. I mean, judging by what's going on, all these people applauding at 8 o'clock. Today we had a minute's silence. Yeah. Dear God, the dead soldiers and sailors and airmen in the 2 world wars and the deaths, they only get a minute's silence, for crying out loud. And 100 nurses, and I'm not diminishing it, it's a hell of a sacrifice they've made. 100 nurses get a minute's silence. Well, I think there is every chance that in hospitals up and down the land, there will be, quite rightly, memorials to the nurses and other staff, cleaners and all the rest of it, who died as a result of coronavirus and contracting it in the place of their work. And it's a brilliant idea, but I wouldn't have it instead of the 60 grand, Juliet.
No, well, I think the 60, whatever it is has already been arranged, so that's set in stone now, isn't it? It was just that I thought it was a good idea at the time.
You were right. I say to you again, it's a belting idea. I wouldn't swap one for t'other, but we can have both.
No, that's
good. I think it'll happen, Juliet.
I hope it does. It would be good.
Good on you. Good to talk to you. 0800 28 2255. How do Keith?
Hello. We were talking about Aston Martins, not me personally, but we were talking about Aston Martins on the programme last night. And I watched the same recording from yesterday about them, and I found something that was very unusual. The 200 panels of the body are glued together. And the reason they're glued is they will not crumple, so I presume they snap off. In the event of a crash, they would break off, wouldn't they, if they were glued rather than welded?
Did they not tell you why they're glued?
No, they didn't tell me.
That might have been a good idea, mightn't it, if you're doing a programme?
You can't ask the programme like I can...
No, I'm not suggesting, but I would have, if I was making that programme and I took the trouble to include in it that the panels are glued together, I would immediately want to say why.
Yes, it wasn't mentioned, but they also mentioned that the radio is pre-programmed for your favourite station, so as you get your Aston Martin and press Radio Lancashire or Manchester or even Merseyside on Sunday, it would automatically go onto your station, and they even check it with decibel meter to make sure it's up to scratch.
When you say it'll go on your station, how do they know what your favourite station is?
Because it's programmed to whatever...
No. How do they know? How does whoever's doing the programme? So let's say I go in. This isn't going to happen. I go in, I buy an Aston Martin. I drive it home, and I get home, I put the radio on. What station have they put on it?
Well, it depends on which country and what you specify on your order.
So like I said, how do they know? The answer is, they ask them.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I got that with my Ford Cougar.
Did you? Oh.
Yeah. Bloke said to me, what do you listen to? I said, Radio 4. Got in the car, switched it on, Radio 4.
Oh, yes, you can't listen to yourself, can you?
Well, that's not the issue, but he asked me what was my favourite radio station, so I told him.
Yes.
And when I picked the car up, got in it, went down the road, turned the radio on, Radio 4.
Can't be bad.
And it doesn't cost 200,000 quid.
No. Another little bit I'd like to add. I was listening to me 1972 Made in Japan Deep Purple CD, and what I've read about it, the Japanese, they do every word of every song that they played, but of course they didn't know what it meant, and I couldn't help thinking of Sharif.
Right.
You haven't got that one, have you?
No, well, I got it, yeah, but I mean, you know.
Anyway, last thing tonight.
Go on.
A £2,000 pen. I won't say the trade name, but it's a serious fountain pen. It takes 5 hours to make it, and it's made out of a Spitfire, a real Spitfire. Or should I say the relics of a Spitfire.
Okay. Right.
Well, that's it.
Right. Well, there we are. I believe that the glue Aston Martin uses for the chassis, there are two types of glue. They use a bonding glue. I'm just reading this. This is from a website called Piston Heads, as opposed to Piston Board. Anyway, there's an explanation, and it seems to say it's used to bond the aluminium chassis together. Perfectly normal. It's so strong that during tests the metal sheared before the bond did. So there you are. How fancy is that?
Well, I've learnt off you. I don't.
Well, no, you've not learnt off me. You've learnt. I've just read it out off the internet. You've not learnt it off me like the absolute cobblers. every chance of it. And speaking, good on you, Keith. Good to hear from you. How do Shafiq?
I'm okay, my friend. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. You may have gathered by now that you'll have to stop talking for a minute to hear what I'm saying. You may have gathered by now that quite a few people hear you and haven't a clue what you're on about.
I'm talking about the dead. After death, how we are in the yard, human being life, exactly after the death, same exactly look like human being. Nothing changing. but everybody's age is the same. And now, example, before Jesus Christ came in this earth, in the heaven, all God messenger is full up, no missing anyone. When Jesus Christ come back from heaven in this earth, now that means heaven is one messenger missing. In the heaven, one messenger missing. Which messenger? Jesus Christ. So when Jesus Christ came, people arguing, talking each other, nobody believe it. But Quran not lying. Or is the whole in this world is the main mosque in the God house, the Black House, Makkah city in Saudi Arabia. The house is closed. Only few people pray the Salah, Namaz prayer. But why? Because God Messenger Jesus Christ order. He give the order to United Nations 2002, 1st July, Her Royal Highness Princess of Wales Diana birthday. Jesus Christ declare he is a Christ. That's why he did his pilgrimage in Saudi Arabia 2003. He come back from Saudi Arabia, Great Britain. Soon as he came from Saudi Arabia.
Shafiq.
Yes?
Shafiq. Good night. How do, Malcolm?
How do, Alan? Yes. I'm just thinking about the coronavirus a bit more, and an idea that's come to me, which I've picked up from other sources, is those who've survived coronavirus and have it would have within their blood antibodies that would be capable of fighting off coronavirus. So if they were to donate blood to the NHS, then that blood could then be given to others, which would also give them immunity. That's my understanding of it.
Well, that is often the case, which is how the whole immunisation programme works. There is no guarantee that anyone can give. This has been discussed a number of times on various programmes, on radio, television, in articles and the like. At the moment, there is no guarantee that having had it, you will not get it again. And there are cases where people are supposedly to have suffered it and then have gone on to suffer it again. But without testing both times, you can't be sure. So we don't actually know for certain. But there is a thing happening at the moment. When they test to see whether you've had it, there are two tests they do. You have a test that says, have you got it? And then there's a quicker test that says, have you had it? And that test is a measure of whether there are antibodies in your blood. That's it. What we don't know for certain, although history hints strongly, what we don't know for certain is having had it protects you from getting it again. We don't know that to be certain, although there are lots of historic evidence that other viruses have that effect.
Yeah, it just strikes me that, I've donated blood myself. There's no point in me donating it on the basis of what I've said, because to my intimate knowledge, I've not had CV-19. But I think those who feel that they owe a debt to the National Health Service should at least consider giving a pint of blood to show that they are, not just with words, but with deeds, that if they're in the right categories and if doctors can make use of it, this could be a good way of, in practical terms.
Well, absolutely. But until they know that having the virus antibodies protects you from the virus in future, it would be an invasion of a person's body unnecessarily. So there are experiments going.
Let me make this point. When you give blood, like I've given blood, now I've had all manner of vaccinations, including smallpox, which is now eradicated. Mm-hmm. All manner of vaccinations, cholera, typhoid, because I've travelled in the past to various countries, yellow fever. So, when I gave that blood, I was also giving the antibodies to it. And so people, that would equally apply to someone who'd had...
Well, but if you say to somebody, give us a pint of your blood because you've got the antibodies, and we're now going to give this pint of blood to that person over there so that they'll get the antibodies, that is an interference with both of those individuals.
No, I'm not saying it's compulsory. I'm suggesting, obviously, it can't be compelled, but I'm suggesting those who talk about their support for the National Health Service, and and they may be in a fit state to do it, why not prove it by actually donating a pint of blood? That's the simple point I'm making on that.
And the response I'm giving to you at my third attempt is that the NHS won't put blood into somebody unless they know it's going to do them some good. They won't do it just...
I agree with you there, but there's
right.
always a need for blood transfusions. That's why people donate.
Malcolm,
I haven't done it for a few years.
Malcolm, let us follow the process. Somebody gives a pint of blood randomly, and then different elements of that blood are used in different ways. A lot of people, not all by any means, but a lot of people get whole blood. It is perfectly possible that at some time in the non-too-distant future we will have evidence that antibodies of COVID-19 will protect you from getting that again. There will be evidence at some point, I'm sure. But until then, nobody is going to be putting it into somebody just for the sake of it.
No, I'm not saying this. I'm not saying that. But apparently,
so what you are saying is just donate blood. I'm
saying if you feel that you've had a good experience of the National Health Service and you feel fit and well enough to do so, and you've survived COVID, whatever, at 19. We don't know what's coming after. Is it COVID 20 or 21?
It depends when the next outbreak is.
Yeah. Then, equally people who've survived, let's say, influenza, and when they donate their blood, that immunity will be passed on to the person.
Malcolm, I say again, you're making the case, and it's a very valid one, and I support it wholeheartedly, that people who are fit enough and well enough to do so should donate blood. Full stop. If you donate it with the intention of passing whatever it is you've had as a protection onto somebody else, then that's a bit pointless. But if it gets you in there to get your needle in your arm, your biscuit and your cup of tea, then get on with it. But they are doing research right now to find out whether having had the condition protects you. And then they're also simultaneously, as you probably know, working on whether there can be a vaccine created to protect against it. And that may well be antibody-based. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. But yes, I agree with you. People who can and choose to and are not religiously forbidden from doing so should donate blood.
Yeah, if the blood is, sufficiently...
Never mind sufficiently. No, Malcolm, never mind sufficiently. Donate blood. And
yes, let the...
Well, if
I mean, sometimes...
You might remember what I said, and that is that if you are fit enough and well enough, that covers.
Yeah.
And now, when you get there, they may say, "I'm sorry, you've got anemia. We can't take your blood. You've got this lurgy. We can't take your blood." And all sorts of things they may say. I used to be a plasma donor years ago, and I'm too old now, but I used to be a plasma donor, which takes about 2 hours, and they do all sorts with it, and they ask you all sorts of damn questions.
They ask you all sorts of questions. I know when I've donated blood. One of the questions they asked me, which they said you were only allowed to ask it you once, they said, was, when you were in Kenya, did you have such and such relations?
That's it. Yeah, they do. Yeah, they have to ask
questions like that.
Mm.
Well, that's entirely right.
I know it is. Malcolm, I'm very much in favour of donating blood. Whatever gets you into the donation centre, I don't care, as long as you get in there. If you only go in for the tea and the biscuit, that's fine by me. Get in there. Good to talk to you. How do, Brian?
I'm fascinated.
Hiya, Brian.
Can you hear me okay?
I can.
All right. I'm fascinated to know how they make TVs out of plasma. I wanted to.
They do.
I
don't think they do anymore. They're all lead now, aren't they? Which is why they're so heavy.
So the burglars can't run off with them. It's quite. I wanted to get on before Malcolm because I always wanted to ask him if he would simplify any one of Brian Greene's physics books for me, The Elegant Universe or anything like that.
I just as a matter of interest, I'm not a conduit.
Okay, sorry about that, Alan.
Don't be sorry.
You like to go at the the Daily Mail quick crosswords, don't you?
Yeah, they're all right. Yeah, I do them from time to time because I'm lazy. I do the Guardian one as well. I can only do the quick ones.
I'm struggling with the 4 or 5 clues now. I thought if it's okay, some of the listeners might have some suggestions what words to fit in there. But if that's okay, and while everybody's grabbing
just do one because it's tedious otherwise. So just do one.
Optical instrument.
We need more than that, don't we? We need to know how many letters it's got. 9 letters.
Sorry.
Optical instrument. Right.
One more. Fish, egg.
No, I said I should just do one.
Okay. Sorry. Aston Martins and Bond. In the film Casino Royale, Bond is chasing the villain. And the car gets rolled, and I think they've got the record for how many times an Aston Martin or a car has been rolled in a film. And if you look, all the bits come flying off, none of them crumple. So, good connection between Aston Martin and Bond. And do you see what I did there?
I heard what you did.
Okay. Right, I think I've exhausted my topics for tonight.
All right. I'll do Balladay.
Hello, Mr. B. Yeah, it's me again. Conspiracy in his own mind. Yeah, I was going to say, has anybody looked into this? You know, Hong Kong, in its proximity to China, is very close to China. But it's not getting cases of COVID-19 like anybody else. It just isn't. Can anybody explain it?
They haven't done yet.
There's only 2 things I can think. Either they're telling lies or basically it just never happened.
Yeah, I think it's quite possibly true. I've no way of knowing, but I'm quite prepared to believe it because it's been all over the place. And perhaps, perhaps it's something in the water. Perhaps it's something they ate. Perhaps it's something they ate. Perhaps it's something that the indigenous population have that other indigenous populations don't have. I don't know whether anyone knows, but I too have read that they appear not to have had any, to speak of, any coronavirus.
Yeah, the only thing that shows up again as well is like the Africans, but we don't know the figures of the Africans. They don't seem to be having much as well. But I'm thinking,
well, that's not quite true, actually.
I think we've got to take our peak to start because the African figures we don't know how they're counting them, really, to be honest. Yeah.
To come back to the original bit, they're not getting it in Africa is a long way from correct.
That's what I was thinking. That basically, because
what were you thinking?
The way they're counting, you don't know. Basically, how they're counting properly, you would never know. Basically,
right.
So, it's just the Hong Kong thing that really got me. I was saying, hang on, they're right next to China, and you're telling me they don't even have half the amount of cases as anybody else does. They appear
to have fewer, and when you consider the proximity in which they live with each other, it is odd.
Yeah, so it is. Okay, Mr. B, I'll let you go.
All right. Well, it's not me that's going, it's you, but I know what you mean. Have a good night. 0800 218 2255. You want to join us, that's good. We're here until 1 o'clock in the time-honoured way, and you can, of course, talk about absolutely anything. It's that easy. There was a doctor writing in the paper t'other day, and he said that the army were astonished at the failure of the distributors of all the gubbins that they need, all the safety stuff. They were astonished at the failure of the distributors to get the relevant equipment to hospitals. And the doctor goes on to say, now that the army's involved, it's improved leaps and bounds. And he wasn't quite sure why. But it's obvious why. First of all, nobody is protecting their profit So can I send that lorry full of stuff? And not yet. Get some more on it. We want it full. We don't want to be going up there. We don't want to be going twice. That'll, what will the shareholders get out of that? Nothing. So it's privatised. The distribution of all that gubbins, it's privatised. So they've got to make a profit to give to their shareholders. That's their first job. Whereas the army comes along, their first job is get the job done. That's it. And of course, the other thing that happens in the army is the soldiers are told, that's your objective. That's how you're going to achieve it. Get on with it. And they're given orders and they follow them, because that's what you do as a squaddy. You could say, although I won't, but you could say it's an argument for conscription. We need a force of people who are prepared to do the necessary in order to achieve an outcome that's good for the nation, and they do it without question, without argument, and without rancour in most cases. And they've done it in so many situations. They've done it when they've been, well, I did it pulling sheep out of a blessed snowdrift just outside Catterick on what we call the tank roads, but everybody else called them moors. And squaddies have done it all the time. You have them when people get flooded out. You have them everywhere. When there's a huge fire, squaddies sometimes have to turn out. So maybe we do need a lot more squaddies. You tell me. How do, John?
How do, Alan? Yeah, just a brief one for the lady who was going on about the about the crossword. I got one, and it was Postman's Round, and the conundrum was how many letters, and it was a sackful.
Very good. Because I would have said 5, because it's a walk. Postman's Round's called a walk. A sackful. Very good. Right, thank you very much. Well, go on then. Should we do... Oh, come on. Should we? Should we not? Weirdest crossword clues? I have awful trouble. I'm okay with... They call them quick crosswords, where they give you a clue and there's a word for an answer. These ones, like they have in the Telegraph or the Times... They leave me cold. I have nothing to work it out with. These cryptic clues that they give. I just sit there and look at them and think, this is balderdash. I've got nothing to offer. I clearly haven't got the mind for them. How do, Mike?
I have that sort of problem with people say, Mike, you're supposed to be extremely good with words. Now, come on, you dimwit. What does it mean? And, that is... So I share your view on that one.
Good.
Alan, when I left you in the dying moments of yesterday evening, last night's programme, I bellowed rather incoherently that I'd be on the phone this morning to Ebico. And I suddenly realised...
Shall we stop mentioning private companies? I don't see why they should get public. We answered the question that the lady posed yesterday.
Well,
but after that, it's just free advertising, and unless I'm getting some out of it, I don't want to do it.
Well, I did this because...
I don't need a reason.
The lady, as you call it, I suddenly had an awareness that, of course, there may be no very limited staff or no staff there today. Sadly...
I still don't need a reason. I don't want you to mention company names, really, with the BBC.
Okay. On with something else. One other thing that the same lady mentioned on Sunday, you may remember a story about a near accident on a train. Do you recall?
Not yet.
About, the way it was told... And I have played the recording a few times, was a bit incoherent, oddly enough, and I found myself wondering whether in some way she'd actually heard my story. Because in 1985, at the time when I worked at a bank in Manchester, I had a telephone call from a company friend of mine, and he deals with access equipment, Alan, and he said, could you come to London next Wednesday, because we've got a machine that we want you to try out for us, and because we're considering taking it on. And I will describe it to you if you like, Alan.
Oh, you're all right. I'll take your word for it. Go on, because we're not a lot of time. Go on.
So what it amounted to was that it was actually called Braille and Print. And what it amounted to is that you braille in on a standard brailer, and this machine will give you a print copy. And they wanted to know whether it was any good. So I went to London, and I did him about 12 sheets of big sheets of braille in the course of an afternoon. And when it was time to go, he took me briefly to a restaurant, and then he whizzed me over to Euston Station. He said, "Mike, can you run as fast as I think you can?" And I said, "Yeah." So we started running, and he gave me a hilarious commentary about the people on the platform, how disgusted they were that the big tall man dragging a blind man across the... Now he said, "Look, Mike, when I say jump, the train's just ready to go." And he let go of me, and I jumped too soon. No, well, he left me too soon, and I went down between the train and the edge of the platform, you see. When you're in dire circumstances, Alan, I don't know whether you know, but struck me as being a supreme example of this. Your strength is enormous, because I was petrified, and I hammered the step of the carriage with enormous force, and I came up like a yo-yo and landed mercifully just inside the train as it was beginning to move off. So that was amazing, wasn't it?
Well, very fortunate on your part. It would have been better had he helped you rather more than just saying jump. There you go. But thank you for the tale. Cheers. 0800 218 2255. You want to join us after the 11 o'clock news, you can. Just pick up your phone, have your say. We'll talk about whatever it is you want to talk about, because that's what we do. If you have an interesting tale, we'll hear that. You can even tell us a joke. We rarely laugh at jokes, primarily not because the jokes are bad, but because people say, "I'm going to tell you a joke," and then it goes on for about 10 minutes, and then there's a really feeble punchline because they've delivered it all as they were talking. But hey, they're not professionals. See you after the news.
BBC News at 11, I'm Moira Alderson. All care home residents and staff will be able to get tested for the coronavirus from tomorrow, regardless of whether they have symptoms. The Health Secretary announced an expansion of testing at today's Downing Street news briefing. The BBC's Hugh Pym listened to Matt Hancock give details of who else is now eligible.
Over 65s and their households, and anyone who had to leave home to go to work if they had symptoms. He said that 43,000 tests had been carried out yesterday. There was capacity for more than 73,000, but of course his target is 100,000 by this Thursday.
Mr Hancock also says the daily figures setting out how many people have died with COVID-19 will now include deaths in care homes and in the community. Gavin Edwards from the trade union Unison welcomes the change, but wants the social care sector to be given more help.
Anyone looking for evidence that the care sector has not been prioritised in the right way during this pandemic need only look at the fact that here we are weeks into this crisis, and those figures are only now going to be released in this way. This has happened because of PPE, because of financial pressure on care home staff, and the government really does need to take a hold of the situation.
Ministers insist care homes have always been a top priority. The Scottish Government is advising people to cover their faces while in some enclosed spaces such as shops or public transport. But First Minister Nicola Sturgeon says it's not a substitute for the existing lockdown restrictions. Up to 12,000 staff at British Airways could be made redundant as the firm says it's struggling with a collapse in business due to the pandemic. Its parent company, IAG, believes it could take years for air traffic to return to the levels seen in 2019. Brian Strutton is from the pilots union, BALPA.
British Airways didn't ask for any government bailouts. They told their workforce that they would survive quite comfortably. And lo and behold, they turn around and announce 12,000 job losses. Now, they've got to come up with some very, very good reasons for that. I suspect there's a bit of opportunism going on here.
A submarine captain who organised a barbecue for his crew during the lockdown has been stripped of his command. A Royal Navy investigation found Commander Jonathan Lewis had made several errors of judgment. The BBC's Jonathan Beale has more.
Commander Lewis went ahead with the barbecue for the crew of HMS Trenchant despite being warned against it. The BBC's been told he wanted to be one of the lads. It was described as a welcome home party after they returned to Devonport after weeks at sea on patrol.
A minute's silence was observed across the UK this morning to remember all the key workers who've died during the pandemic. Writing on Twitter earlier today, Boris Johnson said the nation would not forget them. More than 100 NHS and care staff, along with transport and other key workers, have died with COVID-19. BBC News. It's 3 minutes past 11.
We are here. You are there with our land back.
Alan Beswick's late night phone in.
Call 0800 218 2255.
BBC Radio Manchester and BBC Radio Lancashire.
A lady came on last night and said, would I play Noel Coward, There Are Bad Times Are Coming? And I said I would try to, and then I forgot, despite the fact that Jason went to the trouble of getting it out of the computer. So I shall play it now, and then I'll talk to Brian and to you. There are bad times are coming, apparently.
They're out of sorts in Sunderland and terribly cross in Kent. They're dull in Hull and the Isle of Man is seething with discontent. They're nervous in Northumberland and Devon is down the drain. They're filled with wrath on the Firth, the Forth and Sullen on Salisbury Plain. In Dublin they're depressed lads, maybe because they're Celts. For Drake is going west, lads, and so is everyone else. Hooray, 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 misery's on the way. There are bad times just around the corner. There are dark clouds hurtling through the sky. And it's no good whining about a silver lining, for we know from experience that they won't roll by. With a scowl and a frown, we'll keep our peckers down and prepare for depression and doom and dread. We're going to unpack our troubles from our old kit bag and wait until we drop down dead. There are bad times just around the corner. The horizon's gloomy as can be. There are blackbirds over the greyish cliffs of Dover, and the rats are preparing to leave the BBC. We're an unhappy breed, and very bored indeed when reminded of something that Nelson said. And while the press and the politicians nag, 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 we'll wait until we drop down dead. From Colwyn Bay to Kettering, they're sobbing.
The care sector.
A very disgruntled group have posted bills on the Cotswold Hills to prove that we're in
double
the frown. There's one thing we know for sure: if England is a garden, we ought to have more manure. Hooray, hooray, hooray! Suffering and dismay, there are bad times just around the corner, and the outlook's absolutely vile. There are home fires smoking from Windermere to Woking, and we're not going to tighten our belts and smile, smile, smile at the sound of the shot. We just as soon as not to take a hot water bottle and go to bed. We're going to untense our muscles till they sag, 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 and wait until we drop down dead. There are bad times just around the corner. We can all look forward to despair. It's as clear as crystal from Bridlington to Bristol that we can't save democracy and we don't much care if the Reds and the Pinks believe that England stinks and that world revolution is bound to spread. We'd better all learn the lyrics of the old red flag and wait until we drop down dead. I like the story, let them home glory, wait till we drop down dead.
There, see, that's cheered you up for the evening, hasn't it? Bad times are coming down the corner. There were two little phrases that leapt out at me. There was one, prepare for the depression, and we may well be entering one. Recession for sure, depression possibly. And the other one, the rats are leaving the BBC. I'm sure he said that, or maybe I misheard, because they've not all gone. Elizabeth's new. Hello, Elizabeth. Hello, Elizabeth.
Hello.
Hello. What would you like to talk about, Elizabeth?
Well, the current situation.
Please,
with
please
this
do.
lockdown and everything. I mean, how many people have fallen out with the children that live at home and just want to come and go, and pass it on to someone like me that's got COPD and that's really poorly, and they don't give us anything at all.
Look, can I just stop you for a second, Elizabeth? I do want to have a conversation with you, but you seem to have a radio on in the background. Heaven knows what it's playing. Not
Yeah,
us.
we have your radio on.
Well, whatever the noise is, if you turn it off, that would help me a lot, because I'm getting all sorts of strange sounds.
Okay, John's turning it off. We have to turn our wedding off as well. You know, that's not going ahead.
Well, okay, well, we can get back to that story. Right, so lockdown is, you're right, it's causing difficulties for many. What difficulty is it calling for you, Elizabeth?
For me, well, my daughter left home because she was coming and going, and she lived here. She works at Fords of Winsford, by the way, selling cars, and coming and going. Then we said, yeah, your boyfriend can move in, yeah, because I've got this 12-week shielding thing, okay? Whichever you said, I said, you can go and even move in with your sister, Rachel, yeah? There's ways around it. Because I've got a grandson as well, and it's heartbreaking that I can't see him either, you know? And she just doesn't follow the rules, so... It's just terrible how people are congregating and really don't care about everybody that's participating in it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, yes, it's very difficult. People are used to being freer than they are presently permitted to be, and that's uncomfortable for many. And for people like you who have a specific condition, it can be quite dangerous.
I mean, I can't. I used to like going out for a walk with the dog. Just about sit in the garden now, you know.
Because you're one of these people that isn't
Hi,
even
Rick.
allowed to. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're not allowed to leave the home.
No.
That must make it very difficult indeed.
Very. But I'm quite used to self-isolating because I've been depressed for years, really. So anyway, yeah. Yeah, so apart from that, everything's jolly.
Apart from that, everything's going fine.
What can you do, eh?
Well, you just have to bear it, don't you? I mean, did your daughter leave home angrily, or just decided?
Well, we have to get the police.
That sounds quite angry, doesn't it?
Oh, very. And then the one that doesn't live here, then she came round and started smashing the bloody windows. It's absolutely beyond. Then we had to call the police. Didn't go for criminal damage. I've never called the police on my daughter ever and wouldn't want to. But she's been quite nasty to me over the years. I'm sure she won't be listening to Manchester radio if I'm okay there, otherwise she'll come round and batter me, yeah?
Well, I would hope not, but... What problem does she perceive?
Well, when the lockdown came... Well, the other one, I've got two daughters, right?
Well, the one that came round and smashed all the windows, why would a person do that?
Why would a person smash windows? Well, you tell me, because I've never smashed one in my life. Have you?
Well, no, but, I mean, if there's somebody who just wants to get in trouble, they'll smash any window, but your daughter's come round to smash your windows.
And she did.
Indeed. I'm wondering why is she so angry with you that she wants to do that?
absolutely no idea. My mother got involved in the beginning, you see, because I never stood a chance when I had them. I left my husband when I was 5 months pregnant with the second, went to live with my parents. Whenever I said no to my children, my mother went, yes, you see. So there we go. I'm sure it's quite interesting to other people that are listening when the mother takes over of a single parent and the children. Yeah, because that's what happened to me. If you want to go on different subjects.
Well, no, I'll go wherever you wish the conversation to go, Elizabeth. It's not a case of me choosing, it's you. But I was intrigued that your daughter would come round and smash your windows, even if the relationship...
When she lived here, that one, before she had the baby. She'd been last 5 years, thank Christ.
But what I'm trying to gather is, was there something that led to that particular occasion, or is it just something she does from time to time?
Daughter?
The one that came round and smashed the windows? Is that some...
It started with her when she was 12, actually. Yeah, she was at school, okay, and one evening she said to me, it's really hot, Mummy, blah, blah. She's 27 now. Really hot, Mummy, secondary school, about 13. Can I take some ice water in a bottle? Yeah. Because by the time it gets to noon, it'll be really cold and be able to drink it, and it'd be nice with my sandwiches, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, lo and behold, I got pulled in by the headmistress saying that my daughter was on a bridge throwing bottles of ice at car windscreens, yeah?
That's quite scary to hear.
You could not make it up. Right, so what I do is get pulled into the school, speak to the headmistress, bring her home. She was due to go to somebody's party that evening, yeah? I said, you're not going. So she...
Probably is, but yeah, I couldn't hear it on the I thought at the boat time, yeah, it'll work a lot better. You've got to tilt it sideways. So please, Andy, nice day, mate, and we'll catch you again tomorrow. Over to you, man. That was Dave. 537. Hang on. Sorry, what's my call? Andy. 73, Dave. Sorry, I'm tired now. Time to protect yourself. 73, Dave, mate. You look after yourself, man. We'll catch you again tomorrow. Stop. Just stop. 73, Dave. Catch you again. Alright, Dave, AWWTU and Stephanie, mate. We'll say good night, God bless. Catch up with you tomorrow sometime. From me, Lorraine, Peter and Petra. Over to you, Andrew.
Okay, Dave, send your feeds from yourself to E0, MZF and M7 MBS.
Night, honey.
Okay, Dave, I'm going clear as well, mate. Back to chilling. Catch up with you tomorrow. To you, Julie, Oscar, the fish, the owl, the spiders, and everything else. We'll say good night, God bless. Andy, to you and Lisa, Steph, and Shane. Good night, God bless. From me, Lorraine, Peter and Petra, and we'll catch you tomorrow. Anybody else by the frequency? This is Mike 0VWD clearing. Good night, God bless. Down, we're clear, we're gone. Okay, 73 bounce, mate, to you and you, Lorraine, and Petra, Peter, me, Julie, Oscar, Fish, Charles, whatever. Catch you, mate, 73.
Good night, Van.
Vance, 27LQ.
Sorry, John, I didn't know you were there, mate. We'll catch you tomorrow sometime. Stay safe.
Okay, mate, no worries. Catch you later.
Okay, Vance, 73 from South, 30 MZF, M7 MBS.
Night, honey. Nighty night, take care all. We're down, we're clear. Are you going, Andy, as well?
A little bit. I'll stay for about 15 minutes.
Yeah, no problem. All right. You're listeners. You're right there, John. I heard you, by the way, call 7. I can't remember what you call sounds, but I heard you say G7 on there. I could hear that proper alpha station go. I don't suppose you heard me at all, did you?
I'd love to say yes, mate, but those two that I spoke to, he was an M0LZ India Oscar 70, so he's up, where is he? Up north or somewhere, don't know. Excuse me. And that Papa Alpha 4 Mike Romeo, he was bloody loud, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's it. There's that many things. Call sound, a quick like that, and I heard you try and go between, and then, you shout someone else. But I'm like, it's weird because I can hear it, and it's like someone's going, oh, where's it gone now? Because you hear them, and next it just disappears. Now, where are they going to use the aerial again? It's not like a gradual, it's like, I can't explain it. Like someone's put the squelch on your radio. It's like someone's not breaking the squelch. I don't know what that is. Maybe that's how they work.
Yeah, well, that's exactly how, what it's doing, it's fading. Because it's not worth shouting up to it if you've got no signal at all. And, you can do an Irish jig and not pick it up. It all depends on. You see, these satellites, they don't track normally. They tumble through space. They don't. It's not like the ISS, which is a perfectly stable platform. These things go backside over front, and inside out and everything. And don't forget, with a little rubber ducky, the frequency has to match, your antenna sort of thing. It's a bit of a. If you just want to mess around, just get yourself a 3-element 2 meter, build yourself one 2 meter thing, and then learn how to mess with it. But trying to do it on a handheld is a bit difficult. If not, a lot of people hold it to their chest and use their chest as a reflector. A lot of people point it to the ground. There's all sorts of weird and wonderful things. It's like opening your car and putting your key fob down your ear.
Yeah, that's it, yeah. No, I did find it once, yeah. What I need to do is put the mic in, so you're keeping it in one place and you can talk from a distance, you know what I mean? Then angle it as you're doing it. Yeah, but I'll have a go anyway. We'll have a mess around with that. Well, at least get me receiving anyway, in and out but it comes strong and all but it's no good in the garden. It's alright in the garden a little bit but you look like a blooming idiot and you'll look over the fence. But certainly interesting anyway.
Yeah, but if you get yourself a little 3-element 2 meter, you can actually point it through your glass, can't you? You might get something through your glass. I doubt it because it reflects, but you might get something, or open one of your windows a bit and shove a pole out or something like that. Anyway, it's all clever stuff. It's all good stuff. It'll all turn out in the end.
Yeah, I bet you've got one down the club. But you've got stuff like here. I got one here there. Just use that one. Borrow that. But I can't get the club with that, can I? So I think we'll have that loads of areas. I think it's a microwave on them also. So maybe that's one thing you do on one of the club nights. See, let's do stuff like this. If you pass it over, let's all go out and have a listen and work it. So I have done it before. When I was at the Southport Club, I was doing the M6 call sound, the first one. Someone brought one of those aerials in, the Arrow, I think it was on his Arrow one, it was a cross-sectional one, like a cross. And I think it was an 817, the little mini one, puts it in, there we go, stuff like she's come over now, right, all outside, alright, she's off the air, and that's brilliant, right, and I listen and go, alright, you're going to talk to him, oh no, we're just listening, and I'll allow him, what else, so you're going to talk to it, not too deep, but it's good to learn how it works. Yeah, never really thought
start to be on this, see if I'll be on a different one. That makes sense to the hobby, don't you? Forget what you can do and what you can't do.
You try, if you're anything like me, you try and do about 3 things at once. I had F4 going there, I just had the Azores on it, and then I was talking to the satellite, then I'm talking to you. Demented, isn't it? Absolutely demented, trying to do all these things all at once. What was my audio like coming through by there? Was it all right?
Absolutely spot on, mate, yeah. Sounded just like this, so keep doing what you're saying. Your voice is a little bit loud, because I heard you first, I heard the Golf 7 thing at the end of it, because you've got a very quiet voice, so you need to shout it maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, there's a mic gain control, but you see, even now I'm talking quietly, because if I'm any louder, a head pops through the hatch here. Will you shut up?
Yeah. So assume you didn't you know go outside for that one?
No, mate, I do it from in here.
All right. Well, whereabouts are you in the loft, are you?
That's it, exactly.
Right, so you're in the loft, and I assume you've got a Velux window.
Yeah, Velux window, and just shove the plastic pipe out the Velux window, and boom, I'm in.
Right, okay, there you go. Just points as you're I'll see you move it around as you're doing it.
No, I don't have to. It's just bolted to the floor here on a little, well, it's not, what is it? Anyway, it's a roast potato.
Right, okay. I'm curious now. You couldn't email the picture, I'm curious.
Yeah, certainly, yeah, no worries. Or when you're passing, come in and have a look.
Yeah, well, that might be a while, man. Well, if you're on if you see me cure there, email there, or WhatsApp, or Facebook, or whatever. There you go, Facebook. Are you on Facebook?
No, I don't do them, mate.
Mind you, is it on your Cures Out page at all?
I haven't got them. There's no details of me on that.
Alright, okay. Well, sometime when I'm passing them. Still curious now to look at it. You've got it mounted on the floor. So you've got a loft there. We ain't got any Velux windows. And now we've got solar panels on the back. Ain't going to have any time soon. I can get them on the front if I wanted. The floor's got a problem now. Because at the back of the house it looks, it's got a better view than what the front is. So I ain't have any time soon.
Oh, well, that's the trick, mate. Get a Velux. And don't get one that folds in. Get one like mine that's a barn door.
Yeah, like a barn door, yeah. I could do it. I wouldn't have, that's to do it. I'm trying to think, I'll do the weekend tonight, yeah. Just go to the loft, just get some satellite, put your things, even the contest things, because there's a power over the Wirral, he works 2 and 7, and he puts a little yardie out, pops his yardie out, and spins it round, while he's in his loft. It's the way to go, isn't it?
Well, that's what I do most of the time if there's contests, especially like tonight, for instance, it was 10 gigs and 13 sems, so out goes the, on 10 gigs it's a horn, and the other one's what I call a pigtail, which is a helica wound.
Yeah. Right, that'll be interesting, yeah. You do all sorts of things, you do the TV, you do the things going on, a million things at once, yeah. I've got my thing there, actually, my TV thing and that. Just busy, can't go anywhere at the moment to do small broadcasts on it. But we'll still when we can. I thought about doing it here in the house, but it's just not high enough. I've got nothing too much. I was up in the area the other day. I just thought I'll just go up there, check everything's alright, and just put up an extra couple of inches there. I thought it's only a couple of inches, but I'll put it a little higher as I can so it's at the bottom of the pole. I'll go up there and I thought, right, what can I see from here? I can see LI. I actually took a picture from there what I can see the cranes, the LI, and then I'm a bit blocked by houses one way and blocked by houses the other way. So, I got a very narrow window to get through.
That's it. That's the only problem about living in a city, mate. Even with satellites, you know, you say, oh, I'll go in the garden and point it to the satellites. That's great if you can get over next door's wall, get past that house. Oh, there's a little in between the houses. I can just squeeze through there and hope to God that the satellite comes in that space.
Yeah, very true, yeah. I just play around with that. Yeah. Well, it's all good. Andy's not interested in it and all that, but something to do while in the lockdown.
Go ahead, Andy.
No, like I said to YLB the other night, satellites don't interest me. Just like a piece of space junk. No, not interested. Like Vance, we're not interested in it. But that was him, not me, so nothing much to say. I'm going anyway, so anyway, John, I'll see you about 1 o'clock Friday. So 73 from me, 2E0 MZF. Right, honey. M7 MBS.
Okay, Andy. Good night, mate, and good night to Lisa. No problem. I'll see you Friday.
Okay. Same to you, YLB.
Yeah, 7-3, see you, Andy will catch you soon. 7-3, 7-3. I get it right, so 7, best wishes. 7-3 to you, Lisa, and we'll catch you soon.
7-3 to home.
7-3, catch you soon. I'll play around with that. Yeah, John, I've just got on there now, right, got to think my stuff, just added AO91, AO92, which is right. It ain't showing on the map though, July map.
Right, I'm just opening it up now. Talk you through it.
Yeah, okay. It'll be live, right, when you go live, the screen's just white. Yeah, that's weird. Why is it white? It's GPS. I don't know where GPS is on. Should I turn that on? The 348 is on. Calendar's right, okay. AO91. Hang on, there we go. That just gives you an idea what it is. Okay, I'm figuring it out slowly.
Yeah, well, I go straight for settings, and the colours I'm not bothered about. Dark mode I'm not bothered about. Then it gives you your lat and long and where you are and your grid locator, IO83. That's all I shout up to the satellites. Gives them an idea. You don't want a new location. Satellite filters, I haven't bothered with that. But then in red, big red letters, says download CLEs. Now all that is it gives you the most up-to-date positioning of the satellites, and then there's license, thanks, and info.
Right, where's the download TL whatever?
Right, you've gone into settings.
Yeah.
Tell me what you've got.
I've got active location, use GPS, choose city, use coordinates, use grid locator.
And isn't it in red letters, download CLEs?
No?
It is SatSat, the one you've got.
Yes, that's right, yeah. I've got calendar. At the bottom of the screen I've got calendar, right, this is like where it goes. It's got set, calendar, live, map, my sat.
Right, yeah, I've just gone through everything that you just said. But in my settings, it says download the TLEs. The TLE, all the TLEs are is AMSAT precision, you know, things to tell you exactly where it is. All right. Are you on an Android?
No, iPhone.
Well, that's it. I'm on an iPhone, and that's exactly what it says. So I go on to calendars, and it gives me. The next one you want to pump in, by the way, is SO50. So that's what I've got. 91, 92, 50. For now, anyway.
So when I go to map, got a picture of the house on the top of the world. Go to live, and then I'll circle to the target for after 50, 43 minutes. Now maybe that's it, just goes in there.